Hey Anime Addicts, as we march away from 2024, I want to thank everyone for helping to make this podcast and the community so awesome over this past year. To those of you who joined the Discord, even if you never post. To those of you who shared us with a friend, even if they don't even watch anime. To those of you who gave us a review, even if it wasn't 5 stars. To those of you who support our bonus content, even if you pretend that you don't listen to the hentai episodes. And finally, to those of you who just listen, even if you skip directly to when we score a show. We truly love and appreciate you all, and this crazy journey would not be possible without you. So here's to a stellar 2025 and all the fun we'll have along the way, one episode at a time.
何よ、アニメアディクツアノニマスのライブブロードキャストやってるって言ってるでしょ。聞きなさいよね。You are listening to the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAAPodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Hello and welcome to episode 759 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast, where Mason doesn't know how to edit the sound, but you are going to listen anyway because you love us, and you're going to make your anime addiction worse by being here. With me today are 3 good buddies of mine. We have Otaku Cop, who is not in Japan, unfortunately. We have Caroline, who's not in Japan, unfortunately. And we have Emery, who is also not in Japan, unfortunately, and that is because Mitz is in Japan, and if you want to hear all the things he's up to, you should head on over to the Discord and, see all his shenanigans that he's posting over there. But, shills aside, how are you guys all doing? What brings you here today?
I'm sure you might have noticed that my internet connection dropped again, so
I think Discord
if I'm not
just
talking, that's why.
Across the board.
I'm going to go back to my hotspot. Oh.
That's fine. Anyway, Otaku, Emery, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Oh,
I'm ready
excellent.
to talk about too many losing heroines. I'm ready to hang out with some awesome people. I'm ready to get this thing going.
Ditto. I am doing fabulous. It is a very dreary, Silent Hill looking day here in Minnesota, so this is just keeping me cozy and happy right now.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, as Otaku said, we're talking Makeine today, and we're going to talk about 2024 kind of as a whole, a little retrospective on the year as far as anime is concerned. So, as Caroline gets everything under control, let us get to the big news of the week. If this drop works, please.
It's time for big news of the week.
Starting off with probably the slowest news week I've ever seen, probably due to the end of year and holidays stuff as we're recording this at the very, very tail end of 2024. We have Mamoru Hosoda reveals his next film coming out in the winter of 2025. And the good news is that's not just Japan 2025 and like in the West in like 2027. No, it's coming out both in Japan and in the US as far as we know in the end of next year, which is a little far away at this time, but it'll be here before we know it for, I can't believe it, time flies. If you don't know, Mamoru Hosoda, director of The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children, The Boy and the Beast, a couple Digimon movies, and a couple more things, revealed on Monday his new anime film called Scarlet, or Hatashi Naki Scarlet, literally Scarlet Without Limits. Will be coming out. This will be the first in 4 years for him since Bell came out. And he says that the film will not be, quote, traditional 2D animation or Hollywood-style CG, but it is a completely new look that will have a different feel to his past works, which will have action and romance and is based on a global classic feel. What is everyone's opinions on Hosoda? Do we like him? Are we excited for this? General thoughts.
I'm very excited for this.
Sorry, go ahead.
I loved Belle. My wife and I went and saw it in the theater. It was a true cinematic experience. The music was awesome. So I, for one, know that I am very much looking forward to the next project. And if it's as he's described, then maybe we'll see something new. I don't know, but I'm super psyched for it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of back and forth with his movies. Like, I liked Wolf Children a lot. I wasn't huge on Summer Wars. I know that's kind of blasphemous, but whatever. I think I watched The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, but honestly, I cannot remember it. And yeah, so it's a mixed bag for me.
I just am realizing this is a total blind spot for me. I know most of these movies, and I don't think I've seen them. I did listen to the soundtrack for Belle. It is a repeat for me, so I really love the music. I just heard mixed things from it, so I just never dove in. Um, I'll likely need to add this new film so I can finally put this director on my radar.
Yeah. Uh, I'm with Caroline overall. Medium excitement. Definitely, he is very hit or miss. Wolf Children and Summer Wars being particular highlights for me. Boy and the Beast, Belle, maybe not so much. I know a lot of people were mixed on Mirai as well. I thought that was cool from like an architectural lens, but he's always going to bring something to the table, and dislike or like, I usually have strong feelings towards his film, so at least it's not a very passive watch for me. So excited. I'll definitely talk about it in a year from now, and there you go. There's your FYI. More Hosoda on the way. Otaku, what do you got?
All right. So I am a very big fan of the Danmachi franchise, or Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? And it has been a show that's been on this season. So we're getting right to the climax, if you will. And I'm not going to say any spoilers, but of course I was excited to tune in for the recent episode because things were at a point where it was about to get really spicy. And then we found out that it has been delayed. All of the final episodes, 12, 13, 14, 15, have all been delayed until the spring of 25 because production issues. They won't elaborate on what those production issues were, but those pesky production issues rear their ugly head again. So now we have to wait a couple of months for it. And my thought is this: if we have to wait, but the production value and the animation are going to be what is needed for this section of the story, at the end of the day, I'm okay with it. But as a fan, nothing frustrates me more than those delays towards the end of the season, and you literally have to wait months for some conclusion. It feels like Zom 100 all over again. And I hate it.
I'm getting Uzumaki flashbacks because I was such a supporter of them pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back because I thought, like, if they're doing this much, then obviously the product that we'll get will be amazing. And I was way too naive.
I mean, I think this all stemmed from the fact that they spent probably 5 months on the ED just animating this girl's butt. So, like, the cost had to come out of somewhere, right? But overall, how has the season been besides the butt ED? How has the show looked? Has it been like a step up from previous seasons, or do you think it's just general production mismanagement?
No, the show's looked great.
Okay. So at least you're getting something.
Probably more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what they're animating is super important to this particular arc. So I get it, but the timing couldn't be worse because of where episode 11 left off. Total cliffhanger, because you know what's about to happen as far as who's fighting who, and now you're just kind of it's just very deflating as an anime fan.
Yeah, especially because it's not like, oh, it's been delayed a week, 2 weeks. Like we have, it's like, no, it's going to be a while, and it was right as things were ramping up. It sounds like. So I'm sorry for your disappointment, but it'll be back. It'll be back for you. It's not going anywhere.
No, we'll just wait. patiently.
Somewhat patiently. I'm sorry to hear that. Emery, what do you got?
Yeah, I have Netflix showcases global anime hits and new releases at Jump Festa in 2025, or for 2025, I should say. And I'm just going to say Netflix has just been hitting it out of the ballpark with this. I think they're seeing the writing in the stars, or I would say the dollar signs in the weebs, because it is showcasing Sakamoto Days. It is reviewing the new voice actors for Blue Box's second half, and it's promoting upcoming second cores like Dan Da Dan, Dragon Ball Daimya, and eventually down the line, the new One Piece adaptation. And I bring this up because I don't know if others are either aware or have just heard it through the interwebs, but when it comes to anime, Disney and Hulu have been criticized for its lack of anime promotion. And so I love that Netflix is doing the complete opposite. And I think this just showcases it. They're willing to go all in on this. And if I remember correctly, the Sakamoto Days had an interactive booth. And that's just very, very impressive to me that they're willing to put in the time and money into this industry. So I don't know. I was curious what everyone else's thoughts were. Do you like it? Are you worried about the monopolization that Netflix might, I don't know, maybe be coming for Crunchyroll?
I mean, it's one
I
thing.
feel like nobody can touch Crunchyroll, you know? I feel like because of how much it has and how everybody has Crunchyroll if you're an anime fan. Everybody. So I feel like Netflix probably will be a good like I'm like competition for them, but I don't think it's too much to worry about with them at least.
I'm not worried about a monopoly, if that's what you're getting at. But this whole general, like, Crunchyroll seems to be resting on its laurels could lead it to being surpassed. And also, to me, like, I like seeing this, but I'm more just stunned that a place like Hulu or Disney will pay the rights to get a show and then put no effort in advertising and promoting it. And, like, this is going above and beyond, I think, to, like, actually set up physical booths and, like, take a show and try to port it into interactive or inventive ways of getting eyes on it. Like, I think that's awesome. But I'm just more like looking at the dead horse that is Disney and being like, come on, I need something out of you. You're going to get Tatami Galaxy sequels and just do nothing with it? Like, drop it in silent? Like, why would you... Like, if you're going to try, give a damn and make it known. So, I don't know if it's, like, shame. I don't know if it's just general culture of just not believing in the works. I don't know. But I'm glad to see that Netflix is making a push to really cement themselves as a quality place to get your anime, especially for exclusives, and hopefully we'll not see a monopoly, but push Crunchyroll to actually step their game up finally and be like, oh, this is a serious competitor. Let's make our streaming better. So that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm right with you, Mason. My frustration with Hulu and Disney as a whole is the fact that they do nothing with the properties that they bid for. You think about, there's 3 properties that come to mind that I feel Disney really dropped the ball with: Summertime Rendering, Yozakura Family, and the Code Geass sequel. Like, people don't really know anything about those things. Summertime Rendering was great. Yozakura Family was actually peak shonen that I think flew under the radar because nobody knew about it. So Netflix, they absolutely have been killing it. Like, this season, between Ranma and Blue Box and getting streaming rights to Dandadan, I'm with Mason. If they make the competition better and make the quality of other streaming services go up, so much the better for anime fans. Because I'm tired of Hulu and Disney bidding on these great shows and doing nothing with them, not promoting them. Go Netflix, do your thing.
I'm so happy to hear that. As a Bleach fan, loving Thousand Year Blood War, guess where it's at? In Disney and Hulu. And you can see it now, but like, I call it, the jail cell of that, right? Because it just usually kind of gets boxed in and no promotion was done by it. And now you have people coming in like, oh, should I watch this? Absolutely. Go watch. It's beautiful. It's stunning and well done. And you finally get an ending to the Bleach saga.
Part 4, final season. It's coming. Can you believe it?
Excited. I I actually can't, just because of how long in between it was. I mean, I was shocked when they decided to do this and being very smart and diligent about breaking it up into parts to
Hmm.
really dedicate to the animation. So I'm happy. I want more from Crunchyroll. I think the fact that Netflix does the simulcasting oftentimes with the dub and subs, I think that their player is a heck of a lot better than Crunchyroll's. So yeah, I'm for the competition at this point in time, and I'm loving the dedication to the genre.
That said, sometimes they do just drop something, like all of Beastar's final season part one, and it seemed like that didn't get much love, but I guess it's the third season at that point, but who knows? Anyway, hopefully things only get better in the streaming options moving forward. So, thank you all for the big news of the week, and we can move on to our main podcast topic, which is 2024, a retrospective. How was this year in anime? How were the last 365 days? Uh, Good, bad, better than usual, worse than usual? Where do you guys want to start with this? It's a lot to take in at once.
How about we each say the standout for us, like the one anime that stood out in our memory
Oh, that's so
for from
tricky
2024.
because like I don't watch shows until right before we review them. Like
True.
we're not even into the fall shows for most of them. So like we'll still do our anime Oscars in a few months, which gives me a chance to catch up on everything. But yeah, we can still. So with that, disclaimer that I have not seen everything from this year that I want to yet. Yeah, what do you guys think? What are your personal highlights?
I love Don to Don. That was the peak for me. Beautifully animated. Interesting place to leave us off before the second core, but that one was peak 2024. That is likely going to be my anime of the year.
That's a good choice. So two really stuck in my mind. I absolutely adored the Rama One Half remake on Netflix. It was a just a huge syringe of nostalgia straight into my veins, and I honestly couldn't be happier with the adaptation. That I'm sorry, the Discord group corrected me on my pronunciation. The adaptation. Uh, they were very very firm on my pronunciation. So the adaptation of this Rama One Half is great. And then of course for me, I know it kind of breached two different years, but finished this year. Freerin. Freerin is just it was a big ball of fantasy that I absolutely adored from start to finish. From the music, the characters, that for me, that is a 10 out of 10 perfection. I'll rewatch it. Anybody wants to rewatch it, I'll rewatch it. I don't care. That is definitely a home run for 2024 for me.
For me, I think this place of like it lived rent free. Like that was the one anime that lived in my head rent free and surprisingly so. Yatagarasu. Emery and I were going to get more into that. We're definitely going to talk about that. Um but yeah, in us on the other side of the coin, the flip side here, Uzumaki, because I was so hyped. So hyped. I was thinking about it all the time whenever this was going to come out and it finally came out. I'm like, and it sucked. So, yeah, but we'll definitely talk about that more. Mason?
I mean, I feel like it's tricky because far and away, I think the best thing was Look Back, the like hour long movie by Fujimoto, the guy who did Chainsaw Man. I thought the shows overall, like I judge a year based on like what were the highlight shows, the shows I'll carry with me for years and years to come, and there really weren't any for me. I thought like there was a bunch of solid shows this year, but nothing that I was really like we'll look back on and be like that was the year of this show or something. That so it was kind of tricky, and that's accounting for like almost 225 plus shows came out in 2024, and that's including some O and A and carryovers like Apothecary Diaries. And it's tough with films because like some stuff will come out in Japan in 2023, but stuff like Blue Giant and Maboroshi didn't come out till this year. We got the new Mononoke movie, which was pretty awesome, but I wanted to, before we got into shows specifically, I wanted to get into some podcast stats, which people love the numbers. So I went back and averaged the scores of this podcast over the past couple years. And of course, obviously, we have a batch of new hosts that have entered the fray, and that will influence what shows people are reviewing, hopefully slant us a bit more positive. But here's some numbers for you guys. 2021, the average score that we gave to all the shows from that year was a 2.8 out of 5. 2022 was a 2.7. 2023 was a 2.89, the highest so far. And so far in 2024, we're at a 2.87. So we're neck and neck with some of the best shows, like Emery mentioned, with Don to Don and stuff to come. So this could be the highest scoring year for the podcast in terms of liking shows we like. Now, I will mention that Otaku is the most positive of all of us so far. Now, we only have a couple reviews under our belt, but your average is a 3.5. And Emery is the most negative, though that could be accounted for some of the shows she was on to review and not her own personal disposition, if you will. Her average is a 2.17. So how does it feel to be the grouch, the Grinch, the just stealing my crown is the most curmudgeon-y of us?
It is definitely due to shows. If you go back and listen to the original, the OG Anime Court, I got flagged for being the most like positive on shows, leaving them in this like realm of 7 or 8s. I think it comes down to the shows. But you know what? I'm gonna wear my grouchy crown for a little bit. I'm gonna enjoy it.
Get good.
What were some of the shows that you had reviewed? Because I have trouble with my memory. Like, so what were the shows that you were? So this was the
transition I was going to make. So what were the worst shows? The shows that we were just the most like, get this taste out of my mouth from this year.
I can kick it off again.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I obviously reviewed Gushing Magical Girls, and that was a choice that I actually made. I was the one who picked that show. But
you were like, oh, yeah, get me on Gushing. Absolutely. Out of all the things that you could review, that was the one you begged to review.
Which he gave the same score as my dear friend Nokotan. So those are two twos that'll pull down the average.
Yep. So, and then the other show I watched was Train to the End of the World, which is just it's a fine mid show. But I would say my least favorite, I did find it. We didn't review it for the show, but Days with My Stepsister. That was my least favorite show of 2024. That one actually got a lower
you finished that one?
Gushing. I finished Days with My Stepsister.
You're a trooper.
It was rough. That one was a rough one to finish.
I finished it too. I mean, I don't mind being Mr. Positivity, but I too have animes that I didn't like my dear friend Nokoten. I couldn't get through episode 3. I didn't like it. The jokes just didn't land for me. I found the characters to be annoying. I just couldn't get. For me, that was probably the worst anime that I watched this year, to be completely honest.
I think some of the real stinkers for me in terms of reviewed shows was MF Ghost season 1, Rurouni Kenshin, and Windbreaker.
Yeah, I forgot about Windbreaker. It's not the worst show, but it's so forgettably bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. It's not like terrible, but I was just not feeling it at all. Oh yeah, and Tsundere Lisa-Lot or whatever her name was. God. Yep. Oh, that was a mistake on my part. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Well, enough negativity. Yeah, so general thoughts of the year. Shows, seasons. Looking back, like, how do we feel about 24? Good? Bad? About the same?
I mean, in my thought, it could just be because recency bias, really. I don't know. I feel like this year of anime just wasn't up to the standards of previous years. You know, like there were good shows. It's just it seemed like a pretty forgettable year in comparison. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like there were some standouts, but there wasn't as much as there has been, or at least it feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming off of, I thought 2023 was a particularly strong year. I mean, especially if you account Freyrin as being part of that. But I don't know. I think the shows there really resonated with me. Just felt more timeless. Just felt like it had more gravity. Whereas everything in 2024 that's even been good has been kind of, I don't know. It's sequels, and I feel like something about a sequel, like Oshinoko Season 2 was excellent. Sound Euphonium Season 3 was excellent. Dangers in My Heart Season 2. Like, these are all good shows, but I feel like they don't make as big of a splash being a sequel versus, like, original new stuff. Like, even the new Monogatari series is amazing, but it's, 7 seasons deep at this point. Like, I don't feel that same impact. So I feel like that's what's really lost it for me is the new stuff hasn't hit.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
think
see if I can get like a short list of some of the really good not original, but like first seasons of stuff. Because as you said, like there are quite a few good sequels. But yeah, I just want to see. So while I'm
y-
working with that, we'll see.
yeah, I think this was a fine year, but when I look back, whenever you can get a 10 out of 10 on my Annie list, that tells me it was a good year. And Skip and Loafer last year, chef's kiss. I
Yeah.
love, 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 love that show. And obviously, I love Demon Slayer. I got Demon Slayer both years, so I watched Link Click season 2, Pluto. So there was just a lot more
Was Link
meat
Click this
to
year?
2020. Link Click
Season
season 2
3.
was last year in
Okay.
2023.
Gotcha.
Yes, season 3 is that technically 2025?
It's on that borderline stuff where it's like you can associate it with hair, but and once
Okay.
again, I'm also, as I said, I haven't finished Day Destruction. I haven't seen past episode 1 of Orb, but I love both those. Like, I get that I'm coming from a place of ignorance, and like 3 months from now, Mason will look back and be like, "What was I talking about? There was a bunch of good shows that you hadn't watched yet." Okay, fair, fine, but
I I just remember Delicious in Dungeon. So that was one that had a, I had never even really touched that property before, but I think there's too many sequels. I think every season there was like a major sequel that came out that maybe clouded the pool of the newer stuff. But like, was this year particularly higher for overall releases versus other years? I think you said there was 250 shows this year.
220 something, and that's kind of on par. Like, we're usually getting 200 plus shows a season, and that's including OVAs, ONAs, and series with like at least multiple episodes. But it's saturated for sure. And I always say, like, it's still the best year we've ever had for anime in that everything that exists this year, we still get everything that came before it. So if 2023 is a great year for anime, you can watch all those shows in 2024. So, like, I always think that the current year is the best year for anime because you have the whole library of shows plus what's new. So I'm always very optimistic when it comes to the future 2025. Like, how was this year? Like, oh, if this year wasn't great, you could still watch all of this completed shows from the past. So I always am like, yes, we're living in the best time to watch anime for sure. It's just when you isolate it with arbitrary deadlines, like how it, I don't know. It's just a fun discussion. But I want to hear Emery and Caroline talk about an excellent show that I think flew under the radar for a lot of folks, and not for any particular reason of like, oh, it's a something like Link Click, which is Chinese, so it doesn't count as anime, or something that was on a weird service, but Yatagarasu, which is a super fun, super compelling story that was very fresh, very original on Crunchyroll, so anyone can watch it. But why was this show so good?
Um, First, I think we just need to focus on the fact that it was a show that nobody was talking about. Like the season started and I would probably guess like a very, very small portion of the population even knew that this was a show that was coming out,
Was
let
it the
alone a
name?
decent
Was
one.
it the just general
Yeah,
promotion looking kind of just generally court drama y and nebulous and not very
Yeah.
compelling?
yeah. So
I
like
think
the
it was
name
the court
of it,
drama
like,
aspect.
sorry, what'd you say, Emery?
I think it was the court drama aspect of it. I think people see court drama and they're like, oh, I don't have time for this, or it feels soap opera-y, so it steers them away from it
Yeah.
when there's just so much more going on with it.
And then add in the fact that so Yatagarasu is one title. It's often also called The Raven Does Not Choose Its Master, and that's a very strange title. And honestly, I don't know if this was just me or if this was a common misconception. I thought it was like a yaoi thing. I don't know why. But
Yatagarasu, the weebs do not choose to watch it, is pretty much what it should be called.
yeah. So I was I had no idea what this show was about until I heard people talking about it on our Discord, and even then, I'm like, I knew very little. So it was just because of that slight buzzing of it being like the dark horse of the season that I'm like, okay, let's give this a try. And I start it, I'm like, holy shit, why is only a few people talking about this show right now? So I definitely felt like I was in the know, and I'm like, "Ooh, I know a little secret show that you guys should be watching right now." Um, and we've talked about this show here and there, on the podcast, but if you're not familiar with, like, what it's about, as we said, it's a court drama, but it's a good court drama, and it's a good fantasy. It's, like, not your typical fantasy world, like, there's all this lore, and what you would assume of it is not exactly what it is like. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but what are your thoughts, Emery?
I really liked it. I instead of what they should have called it, instead of calling it a court drama, which yes, it is a little bit of court drama, I actually would relate it more towards that Game of Thrones vibe. This is a very different world than what we've encountered before. You have people who can shapeshift into ravens. There's a lot of mythology thrown in there. And a lot of it comes from mythology that already exists in Japan. But of course, coming in as a Western audience, you don't always understand that. And maybe that can be frustrating or confusing. I would say maybe one of the biggest hangups is this isn't going to be a 12-episode show. It is 20 episodes. I think it is worth it. There are certain points or arcs that get broken up over those 20 episodes, but I thought it was really well done. The performances are outstanding by the voice actors. I just was so impressed with this story. And it is one where it is hard to go into it without giving spoilers. So maybe there'll come a time where we can dig into it and give spoilers, because there are a lot of different conflicts. There's twists and turns, there's betrayals, and then there's unexpected partnerships. It's very, very well done, and any sort of twist that existed in the story was done in a way that was believable. It wasn't just trying to be a twist for the sake of being a twist, I guess.
Mm.
Is good, is what she's trying to say. Otaku, did you have any? I know you kind of mentioned Delicious in Dungeon, but sort of like hidden gems, shows that you watched that you didn't think got a lot of notoriety or publicity that you want to shout out of, like, oh, check this one out. Don't sleep on it.
Well, I know that there's another person on this panel that's a huge fan of this show, and it just finished this season. And I feel like the trash anime has gone up in quality. So, Yakuza Fiance, just the most high quality trash anime that I have watched in years. And if I can't recommend it enough. It is just, if you can get past the weirdly drawn eyes on some of the characters, it is just an absolute dumpster fire of quality. I don't want to spoil anything, but the relationship between the main female and the two main men in her life. It's just, I was laughing at times. Some of the fights were great. The Yakuza dynamics that were at play were great. That was one of my favorite, I feel like, under the radar show. Have either of you guys watched Yakuza Fiance? Because I know Emery has.
Oh,
I
such a good
haven't.
pick.
Not
It
beyond the
is,
first couple episodes
oh,
for
it is the
impressions, and
most
that's
wonderful
exactly
trash.
what it is. And I wouldn't say this is not a popular show, but it's definitely lower on the seasonal popularity than I would be expecting. You know? Like, I feel like it's hitting the right notes for, like you said, that trashy romance thing. And it's kind of just in the middle of the pack of like, yeah, people know about it if they're looking for it, but it's also like below something like You Are Miss Servant, which I don't know how. So it's yeah, it's not unknown, but it definitely, if you like that kind of show, and you know you are if you're that kind of listener, uh, don't sleep on it because it's that show in spades. It's that genre.
Yeah, if you look in the forums, the people that love the show love the show. So yeah, go watch it.
Nice, good call. Well, Emery put together a massive gamut of notes on 2024. So do you want to kind of shepherd us through this? Any talking points
Yeah,
you discovered?
yeah. This was just, and I personally think Annie List is peak. I do Annie List, not my anime list. So you're just gonna have to deal with me using their filters. And I just put together just a general mood board of the variety of shows I was seeing when I was going through and trying to look at, say, originals versus what was the most popular shows of 2024, trying to get an appetite because obviously we have over 200 plus shows. There are only so many shows you can watch in, I don't know, a day, and then also try and have a life and function as an adult. And so this is just breaking it down, trying to get a flavor of what other audiences want. Likely we won't hit all of those. Go get the show notes. Do it. Do it. Um, okay, so to start us off, I think I actually want to hit first the original shows because I would like to hit on specifically Metallic Rouge that Mason passed for
Yeah,
2024 and was a coward and didn't review. He killed it. He killed the review.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Unless you want another Train to the End of the World or Gushing or another example of that. Yeah, that was a Spite Pass. That was in winter of 2024, which is notoriously, I think, every year we've ever done our like Discord awards, which join the Discord, you can participate in that. Winter always rates as like the lowest season in terms of like the quality of the shows, and I was just so upset with everything we were being offered that I passed that one out of spite, and I regret it. So I Control Shift deleted that show out of existence, and we don't need to talk about it.
we the only thing we need to talk about is I looked for original shows that did not have source material from my knowledge, other than Girls Band Cry. You could maybe argue there are other idol shows, but I went through and you have shows like Suicide Squad Isekai, Jellyfish Can't Swim, and then Girls Band Cry, and there were so many original shows that were just huge flops. And why is it that we can't make shows that are original that become peak, that become enjoyable to the audience, that we can get them invested in? And I just wanted to float it by if you felt differently or if you saw something that Girls Band Cry was doing differently than the other shows.
I mean, even Girls Band Cry is based on, this universe of like the Bang Dream stuff. Like it's its own thing for sure. But I feel like it felt more not formulaic, but following an idea, a concept, and subverting it more than like being completely fresh and original. But I definitely say it's one of the stronger originals we got in a very weak original year. So, is it the best one of the batch you have here? I would say yeah. Were you
Yeah,
gonna
I
say
mean,
something? Sorry.
yeah, I feel like when we get into making an when they get into making an original show, they run the issue of making it good when at least the mangas and light novels and whatever that anime have to pick from, they already know if it's well received. So while with the original anime, they get the opportunity to think outside of the box and be a little bit more free on how they do things, they run the risk of not having it be vetted first. They don't know exactly how people are going to react to it, and sometimes the planning of things are just not all that great. Although I would say, in terms of all the original anime that we do get, um, Girls Band Cry was a fairly different. Wait, you said that was based off of something already, right?
No, like it's based off of the concept of just like idol shows, which have existed for a while, but like it's not based on an existing property or anything.
Got it. Yeah, Girls Band Cry, I feel like, is a fairly decent original anime compared to some of the other stinkers we get.
Yeah, like it's good. I would absolutely watch that show again. But is that show like, what is that definitive? Was that even this year? Was that 2024? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore. This year it's been too long.
You're just already checked out. You're ready for 2025.
It is 24. I'm just going crazy. It was just in like spring or something.
You're just imbibing the spice and just going on your time journey.
I'm so lost. It feels like forever ago is what I was getting at. Maybe I'm just confusing it with Bang Dream. Yeah, no other thoughts on these originals. I mean, even Suicide Squad Isekai, like it's hard to say that's an original. It is, but it's like once again based on pre-existing stuff.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an even bigger sin. Like, they had things to pull from. They had pre-existing characters and personalities, and they're just calling it this thing, isekai. So they're basically doing everything that an isekai would do, and it still sucked. They had everything, and they still could not do it.
Yeah. What else?
Just a rough year for originals.
Yeah, it was.
I think I'm going to loop it back to the reason why I talked about gushing over magical girls, or wanted to, is because I feel, especially in 2024, looking at Chain Soldier, gushing over magical girls, I know there were others there. I just didn't watch or see them all. But I feel like we're starting to push that fan service limit, and we're starting to go a little bit into this like softcore porn hentai vibe. And so am I out of touch? Am I just being too much of a feminist? Do I just need to let it go? Or are we seeing a trend of just continuing to push that envelope?
I thought that this year was more tame than like in years past, personally.
Yeah, Ranma doesn't even have nipples.
I know. There are no nipples in Ranma.
You had one job.
Yeah,
But,
actually,
I
I do
mean-
think that there have been several anime of past years that were fan service for the sake of shock value. Like there was Harem Labyrinth or whatever that was called. There was oh man, there's some. I'm trying to think of the name. I haven't seen them, so it's kind of hard to stick in my memory. But
I mean, Ishizoku
The dog show,
Reviewers
right?
was a couple years
Yeah.
ago,
But
but that
that
was
was
there
generally
was
like
Inukai
quality.
San's dog.
Yeah.
That's out of control.
So we do have gushing, we do have Chain Soldier, but I think every year they have those shock value ecchi shows.
I didn't watch
So
Gushing.
nothing
I
new.
can't vouch for this. This is your own cross to bear.
No,
Gushing
we did do a
definitely pushed
drinking
that
we
envelope.
did drinking episode game, Mason. You remember that?
I wasn't part. I had no hand in any gushing related
Oh.
tomfoolery.
Got yourself lucky.
I dodged two
So what you're
bullets, and they
saying
were the
is,
same bullet.
Listeners, past season 2, make Mason watch Gushing.
And then he'll
Oh,
have to watch
please
season
don't.
1 because he's that type of person.
No, there's more hosts on this show. I don't need to do this. I will continue to dodge whatever bullet is
Listen,
required of me.
Mason, what we don't know when we're reviewing it, if we're reviewing it, but we already know that a lot of us are busy that weekend. So you got to
It's
pick
actually
one
going to
for
be a
the team.
solo show.
I would not deprive Mitsuki of the pleasure of whatever that was.
It was a show.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one also might not have had nipples, though. I'm looking back on it. I don't know if they showed nipples there.
Now, will you remember gushing, though? Like 3 years from now, when you're a seasoned podcast vet, you're like, oh, I remember 2024. It had that gushing like, or will it be soon forgotten by the next latest nippleless fad?
It's going to be remembered by me because it was my first show.
Mm-hmm.
And it is bizarre. I mean, and those kind of shows unfortunately stick with me. I think of Bastard. I think of Harem and Another Labyrinth. Watching those shows just unfortunately just sticks in my memory. So I think I will remember gushing, unfortunately.
I take it back then. I guess this year did have some timeless classics. So you gotta make a splash, an impact some way. And that's the way to do it. I'm very curious about this movie trend, though, that you brought up, because I am not a fan.
I will get our audience caught up. So I see a movie trend happening in the anime world. Haikyuu is currently doing it, I believe. Dandadan did it. Demon Slayer is the one who started it, and we have Solo Leveling getting ready to do it here in January. And what I'm going to say is, in the similar vein of Hollywood slicing up movies, think Wicked, Harry Potter, Dune, I feel that Demon Slayer started this trend where you make the movie fit within the canon of the series. Usually you show the first 3 episodes. Sometimes you show a retrospective, the episode or 2 before that, to gear people up and do it. I think it's clearly a revenue generator and it's likely pleasing the fandom. Do we think this is going to continue in the future? Do you think it's going to get worse?
So to clarify, this is not just Attack on Titan decides to go with a movie for its finale instead of something else. And this is not splitting up that movie into 2 parts. This is making a movie version of already existing episodes and content and rebundling it into a new package to sell tickets to and lump that in with maybe like the second part of new content. So it's essentially repurposing what we've already seen to make a movie product. And I think that's just a huge waste of time and intelligence. And I hate it. I hate it so much.
Do you hate it because it's greedy, or do you hate it because
I just think
you don't feel people should be wasting time going to the theater?
To me, it's a time wasting thing. And it's like, I get if you do a revamped, re-edited, recut, re-sakuga'd up version of it, like that's a little more digestible and forgivable. But when it's just, here are episodes 1 through 3 mushed together and now it's an hour and a half long, enjoy, that's just going back for slop. And I guess I don't, as a consumer, I don't get the appeal of that. I mean, I guess, there is value of seeing something on a big screen in theaters and that, but I don't know. Like, I don't watch the Gurren Lagann, movie edits of the new stuff or the Madoka Magica. Like, it's existed, but it's becoming, like you said, probably more prevalent in a way that I just find unsavory. But sorry, what were you going to say, Otaku?
No, I was just saying, I think it all depends on how it's presented, who the studio is, and what the property is. So, like, Demon Slayer, my wife and I love Demon Slayer. We haven't missed a Demon Slayer theatrical presentation yet. And I think what we liked about what they had done so far is yes, they made the movie, but it was almost entirely new content that we hadn't seen. And then it's just when it actually began to broadcast, the first couple of episodes were that movie. So, but it wasn't something we hadn't seen before. Whereas like Solo Leveling just did, where they condensed season 1 into a recap film and gave you like 10 minutes of new stuff at the end. That annoys me. That I'm with you there. That repackaging, I'm not a fan of it. But then again, as anime becomes more popular here in the United States, I would expect to see more theatrical presentations. But if they do it the way that Ufotable does it, with using it as new content presentation, I'm cool with it because I trust in the studio and I'm a huge fan of the property. So I think I have to take it as a case by case basis.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are taking advantage of the fact that anime fans so desperately want to see anime in theaters, and they will watch whatever they've already seen just to get the movie theater experience, when really it should be relegated to new experiences due to the prices of things already. And also the fact that with Demon Slayer in particular, people get confused over what exactly they are signing up to see. There was one in particular, because Demon Slayer keeps on packaging things for movies, even though they were already in the show. I think there was one movie in particular that was just the season that came out, and people didn't realize it, and did not realize it until they sat their butts in the theater, and they're like, "Oh, I saw this already, and we're only getting, like, 20 minutes of new content." And that's it. And while, of course, you can't you should look up, like, the exact details of things, it's hard when there are so many anime repackaged movies coming out, you don't know which is which. So, yeah,
Would a
but
would a popcorn bucket change your mind? Like if I got like a really unique popcorn bucket?
Dune
I mean,
bucket.
I've never gotten merchandise buckets before. I'm kind of jealous that you have. But I will say that seeing Look Back in theaters was a joy. Especially since I had no idea, like, what I was getting into. I did not do much research beforehand. All I knew was gonna be a short movie, so I'm like, do I really wanna see it in theaters on this one day that my theater is going to have it on a random Monday night, for only 1 hour? And I'm like, "Frick yeah!" Once it
Good.
got going.
That's the appropriate response.
And that's
Yeah.
on Prime now, right? If we want
Yes.
to watch it, because I haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
Especially since it's only an hour long, it's just a dense piece of emotion.
Oh boy.
Sign me up.
It's good. You'll like it, Otaku. I know it. I can vouch for it. I've seen it
And
too many times.
For our listeners, also big fan of Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer will be repackaged, yes, as movies, but that is how they're going to end it. They will be ending with 3 movies, I believe. I don't know. If I had to guess, it's not going to be back to back, so they have time in between, but that is how they will be presenting the finale of this series, and I am very, very excited.
Me too.
Awesome. If we still have some time, one of the other things we can quickly touch on is what I noticed in AniList. Again, maybe it's in other areas, as I feel like Shonen continues to be championing this top 5 category. And the ones that AniList came up with for this year were Solo Leveling, Dun Dun Dun, Kaiju number 8, Demon Slayer, and Delicious in Dungeon. And I get that. I think society, especially Western society, especially if you're getting into like if you're new to anime, they love an epic. They love those plot-driven stories. You think of the Odyssey, how Coyote stole fire, even Momotaro if you're thinking of Japanese stories. So I always think shonen's going to be a gateway drug, and I don't see it losing those top spots anytime soon. If you disagree, let me know, but I can't think of a year when shonen didn't either clear all 5 spots or make it into the top 5 spots.
Yeah, I'm kind of going back through the years on AniList. Let's see what were the top, 5, 10 shows, seeing what took those spots. And 90% of the time, it's shonen. Like, occasionally, you get a My Dress Up Darling, you get a Horimiya, you get something that is, a romance, Kaguya-sama.
Yeah.
But that's not too far deficient from the same age bracket. It's just the romance comedy sort of twist on it. But yeah, it's it's always shonen. It always has been shonen. For better or worse, even though that's not the shows I gravitate to, those are still the heavy hitters, the pullers of the most eyeballs into anime. And at least we got, some different flavorings of shonen this year. I mean, it's not all just guy with sword. You have Delicious in Dungeon, which is a different field than Dandadan, which is different than Kaiju number 8, which is, like, they were all somewhat diverse as far as shonen go. And it's not just, the big five, which doesn't even count for, 2024 shows, but, like, One Piece is still going on. Dragon Ball is back on the menu. Like you said, Bleach is still a thing nowadays. So, like, 2024 is still the best time to have ever watched anime in existence. Maybe just not the 2024 exclusive shows. But yeah, I don't think there's any argument that shonen still is the king.
What I was surprised by is, and somebody correct me if I didn't do my homework, I did not, all of those shows are not from MAPPA. And I would always expect that it would make it into the top 5. And Solo Leveling, I think that's A1. Dandadan
Is Science Saru.
Science Saru. Kaiju number 8, I think, is also A1. Demon Slayer, we talked.
It's IG. Demon Slayer is Ufotable. And Trigger did Delicious in Dungeon. Yeah.
Yeah.
MAPPA, where are you at? They did, was it MAPPA or Cloverworks who did Windbreaker? I think it was Cloverworks.
I think it was Cloverworks.
Let's see. Bones says My Hero Academia. I'm trying to think.
Like,
where
all of
was
their...
MAPPA?
They were recovering from...
Emotional Titan damage.
Yeah, from
and
that.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
And also Jujutsu Kaisen. Oh my god, is my Wi-Fi going crazy again?
You're fine.
Okay.
You're doing just dandy. But then you could also argue MAPPA. Isn't MAPPA doing Rama 1/2? So, like,
yes,
they're doing, but they're definitely doing a lot less.
I can tell you what they're not doing. The Yuri on Ice sequel.
Oh my goodness. Savage.
Another thing that just tore us apart as a community this year.
Though I did pick Zenchu for winter 2025. I don't think I got it in my picks, but excited for that one. And that's MAPPA. So are they finally coming back? Maybe, but they're, for once, not going to win the AAA podcast Oscars for Best Studio, which, I mean, they could. I wouldn't put it past them. But, guys, stay tuned. I think March, February, we'll probably start sending out links for you guys to vote for, all your favorites of genres, best characters, all that stuff. And we always love hearing what you have to say, because we watch a lot, but also not everything. And you guys sometimes catch stuff we miss. So stay tuned for our Oscars, which was always a fun time. Mm-hmm. Any other closing thoughts of the year? I did want to mention, obviously, 2 deaths over the year. Obviously, there are plenty more than this, but the 2 I think that really stuck with me are, obviously, back in March, Akira Toriyama, creator of Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball, passed away, which was, I think, huge in the anime world. As well as more recently, end of September, Sayuri at the age of 28, which is just always heartbreakingly tragic. Singer of a ton of OPs and EDs and stuff like that. So those were the big deaths of the year that stuck out to me. But any other thoughts, closing things before we get into our not quite news break?
I'll just say, I feel like the one sequel that I was very surprised by, pleasantly, Oshinoko. I liked the first season. Second season blew me away. I think that one is my favorite sequel of the year.
Sounds like you didn't watch. Well, actually, I don't know. It was a good sequel. I'm not going to be snarky. Any other thoughts?
Hey, now, I am the grump, right? I get to be the snarky one now.
We'll see how this Makeine review goes. But any closing thoughts on 2024?
Nah, I thought it was a good year for sequels. Mushoku Tensei had its season 2, and I thought it was a great season 2 as a huge fan of that property. So, I'd look back at 2024 fondly, unlike the Grinch.
Look back.
Do
it. Everyone, go watch
I see
Look
what
Back.
you did there.
Go do it right now. Report back.
Report back.
Report back
tell you what.
after seeing Look Back.
After the Washington Commanders play the Atlanta Falcons, I will watch Look Back.
Why
and
would you
report.
watch that game?
Why would I not?
That's fair. That's fair. Trivia question. Let's do that.
Do it. Okay. And Makeine, too many losing heroines. What school club is our main character, Kazuhiko Nukomizu, part of? Find out after the break.
Yeah, and there were no news this week, so it's not going to be a news break. It's just going to be a break. So we'll see you guys real soon. Bye.
So you're at the gym, feeling great and looking great too, I might add. That is until your favorite podcast ends.
Anywhere. Like if you're
Now,
hungry,
without your
you wanna order
headphones,
something, I'll
you're
take it.
suddenly lost in the wilds of Meatland.
I know that's very vague.
Don't get
Are you
lost in
gonna
the
know if
wilds
you
of
can get
Meatland.
Like if you order Taco
Get the
Bell, I'll
AAA
get
Podcast extra content.
Taco
We'll help
Meatball.
you gain some fun times with our hobby addicts, after
Also,
parties,
why are we
and
leaving
hentai
for-
episodes. Nothing gets your blood pumping
Period.
quite like hentai, and nothing helps the podcast quite like your support. So head over to
You enjoy that.
AAAPodcast.com/join or Patreon to support the show. Again, that's
are you thinking of a
AAAPodcast.com/join or Patreon. Bro, sounds like you need a spot from the AAA podcast.
Welcome back to the show following that not quite news break, where we'd still left you with a trivia question just for fun. In Makeine, Too Many Losing Heroines, what school club is our main character, Kazuhiko Nukumizu, part of? The Literature Club, which was obvious if you watched the show, you dummy. With that, thank you all new people who subscribe to support our content. I don't have the magical list to thank you in person, but we will do that when Mitz gets back. So we will move right along to mailbags. Is everybody ready to dance? You guys on your
Sure.
I'm
stretches
always ready.
properly? Yeah. Whew. Just gotta,
Yeah.
just
Got
gotta
to partner with me.
yeah, exactly. Gotta do those back bends. All right, let's do the thing. Oh, I hate my computer so much. Come on, you can do it. It's gonna play like 5 times now. I just know it.
Time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime. Anime. Anime.
Mailbag.
I did not get to see enough of your cat's dance, Emery. You were blinking in and out of existence.
I know she
but
was
what
phasing.
what I did see was exquisite.
Perfect. I'm glad she hated it. So
Well, we have to tell her we didn't get enough of a Claire visual, so she has to do it again.
perfect. Yeah, I'll tell her that for next time.
Otaku,
All
would
right.
you like to? Oh, perfect. You got it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you all can submit a mailbag to us at AAAPodcast.com. Hit the mailbag button, just like Gen X Anime Dad did. He sent us a question that said, "Hey, AAA podcasters, I appreciate all you do and love listening to you all. It's my first time writing in, and I'll keep it really short. I just finished listening to the monster episode. Mitz, I can't believe you didn't have Vicious on your list. And Dio Brando is the toppest of the S tier monsters? Cheers.
I don't think that last part was a question. I think they were saying, and Dio Brando is the toppest of the
Oh,
S
I got you.
Dio Brando is the toppest?
Question mark? No. So
I
Dio
remember
Brando is the toppest.
I can't exactly remember what we put on this list, but I remember trying to focus on actually doing like monstrous monsters and not just evil humans because we could go on all day for like the most evil characters of anime, but that wasn't quite what we were going for with the monsters stuff. But I do know we struggled with that anyway because once we actually got down to it, we're like, exactly how many notable monsters are there in anime that are not already humanoid? So
Yep, I remember we landed on, I think Cell was one of the top ones. But I don't remember who our S tier was, unfortunately. It's been a bit. And I realized if we did add humans, you gotta add Show Tucker. You
yeah,
just
he would be at the
gotta
top.
add he has to be. He is the most monstrous human. So and that's a reference to Full Metal Alchemist. If you haven't seen Full Metal Alchemist, probably go watch it. Otherwise, the Mal bros are going to come for you, and you don't want that. And it's just really great to go watch something that's not having a very good time, but is a very good anime.
Yeah, I wasn't on this episode, but I can agree with you that Dio Brando is definitely a top. So, there you go.
Really a top?
Like a top?
Yeah, like a top.
He's a top.
Oh, sorry. I need to use context like Makeine. He's a left, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I understand what you mean.
Well, thank
So
you,
proud of you.
Gen X Anime Dottie. So, who wants to guide? Oh, I'm volunteering her. It's Caroline. It's time for a review.
Yes. We are reviewing a show which we are very uncomfortable saying the name of because we don't know how to pronounce it.
Is it not Makeine?
I think it's Makeine or I don't know. It's just such a strange. It does not feel right in our mouths, you know. I know that sounded very sexual.
Sounded very right.
Yes. Too many losing heroines. This was a summer 2024 anime passed by moi back in episode 740. You can watch it on Crunchyroll. And here's the general synopsis. Meet the girls on the losing side of romance. First is Anna Yanami, the girl next door type who can't say no to delicious food. Then there's Lemon Yaki Shio, a beautiful and spirited athlete. Last but not least is Chika Komari, the cute but shy heroine with gentle charm. Together they navigate awkward setbacks, hoping to finally find love. So going into it, like I was really in for the aesthetics. Like this is a very beautiful show, and that's obvious from like the first the first look of it. I watched a few episodes and I thought the main cast was pretty fun, and it also had potential to do more than the average rom-com, since they had more stories dealing with rejection rather than a will they won't they average rom-com experience. So I did feel like I was a little unsure passing it, but I did think that at the very least it deserved a review. It definitely seemed like one of the more watched shows of the season, but I was also interested to see where it was going to go because I do think it had potential. I just was not absolutely sure about it. Mason, what were your thoughts going into it?
I wasn't really aware of the show too much. It looked kind of generic from its promotional image, which is why I didn't really pick up on it, but there was definitely an undercurrent of quality in the discourse around the show. A lot of people were just really surprised, really positive on it, so I was expecting something, pretty solid for a light novel rom-com, and that's what I went into it with.
How about Otaku Cop?
Well, I am a consumer of all rom-coms, and when I saw the PV, it looked beautiful. And I read the synopsis of, the fact that it is dealing more with rejection than with, a will they, won't they. So I was in from the start. And it took one episode for me to fall in love with Anna as a character. So I really was all about the show. And I'm sure it will be reflected in my score at the end, Mason.
And Emery?
It already hurts. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, for me, Anna is best girl. I will fight everyone who says Lemon is best girl. I love Anna so, so much.
What if
But
I were to
yes.
say that neither were best girl and there's actually somebody else, which I will
Okay.
review later?
Okay.
Mm.
I'll wait for the reveal.
Yes.
But I heard about this show from Mother's Basement, which is a YouTube channel that also reviews anime. Yes, we can watch other anime channels, everyone. It is okay. And so when I had heard about the show, about the detailed art and background, and it being a love letter to rom-coms, I was interested and was pretty immediately sold upon the first episode. Just the humor that it touched on, my type of humor. And so I was ready to go for this one.
Great. Just going into our general recommendations, spoiler free. I will go first once again. Unfortunately, I cannot strongly recommend this anime. And here's why. I will say it has its good points. I think it looks great throughout, and the main cast has some really good chemistry, and there are quite a few choices for best girl here. And if you generally like rom-coms, there is something enjoyable here, at least in the first half. As it went on, I felt like it was dragging a lot. The plot was kind of getting boring for me, and I was getting pretty irritable with the side characters that were incredibly weird for no reason, and there are several I could talk about here. There's the constantly drunk baby-faced teacher. There's the very horny nurse that is way too eager to make child pornography. There's the upperclassman girl. She's like brain dead and gaspy for some reason. And I looked at the Wikipedia page. Apparently, she's supposed to be like a zombie girl. And why? For what reason is she a zombie?
Cleavage. It's for the cleavage.
And cleavage. And it's like, I'm sorry, did she have like a lobotomy? Like, that's what I'm getting right now from her. And I just don't know why. So there are so many characters like this that are just weird for no reason, and it just distracted me, and I'm like, they're not even likably weird, they're just strange. And I was even disliking Komari by the end of it. Like, I already kind of get irritated with her character type, like the ones that are just so socially inept that like they can't even hold a conversation with anybody and they constantly have to stutter and all that stuff. I'm not huge on those characters. She did win me over when, I'm not going to say the spoiler, but she did something in the first few episodes, I forget which episode, that really made me interested in her. But then by the end of it, we were back to the focus being her social anxieties, and I just got irritated watching it. So it had a lot of potential at the start. Unfortunately for me, it did not stick the landing by the end. But there is some good things. It had the potential, but just did not stick it for me. Mason!
I definitely agree with Otaku and Emery. This show, especially episode 1, came out swinging really above average in terms of quality, snappy and sharp in the dialogue, in the visuals. It's a incredibly well-produced show across the board. Very consistently, just looks great visually. No one can take that away. A couple episodes into it, I was very much feeling it. I was never very excited to watch the next episode, but it was always just kind of fine and did more good than not. And I was like very much clocking it in my like rom-com repository of something alongside the works of like Hyoka, which is just a really gorgeous looking show, great cast, really interesting chemistry and dialogue, and just was hitting and feeling fresh and feeling good and feeling like a definite standout in the rom-com landscape. Unfortunately, though, I really find myself agreeing with Caroline in her spoiler-free recommendation from the very fan-servicey characters that felt very forced at a lot of times, especially the last run of episodes just really started to wear on me by the end. And in a show like this, where your characters are the lifeblood of everything, to have them be the one to drop the ball really was a betrayal of the trust and everything that I was enjoying so much along the way. So first half of this show, easy recommendation. By the end, it's really only for the diehards who enjoyed this kind of rom-com, which it is a good one still at the end of the day. It just didn't become a standout that I thought it had in its bones and in its potential. So unfortunately, can't give it a strong recommendation either. But I think the next two recommendations will be a bit stronger. So let's move on to some positivity.
Bring up the positivity, guys. Otaku Cop.
Yes. So I can't recommend this enough. I thought that for a rom-com, it was refreshingly different, where it kind of presented itself potentially as a harem, but it didn't function like one as much. And it really did confront the trope of childhood best friends ending up together in a very interesting way, where people had to process when things don't necessarily go the way they either wanted it to or planned. And I felt like some of the emotion when some of the characters dealt with rejection or loss was very raw and very real. And I thought they captured what young love feels like when it goes wrong. And I know that some of the tropey stuff, like I'm with you on the teacher and the nurse. They were both obnoxious, but they also did make me laugh a few times too. I can't recommend it enough. I think it finished with enough of at least wanting to see more. I wanted to see more. So I recommend it highly. What about you, Emery?
I loved it. I really did. So yeah, absolutely yes. This had to be one of my top shows of the season. It's just shocking to me because it's not shonen. For those who don't know, I clearly love shonen. We also have a side podcast, Shonen Showdown. Go listen to it. It's great. And yet for this rom-com, I loved every aspect of this show. I loved the backgrounds that were stunningly detailed. I thought the comedy was very clever. Yes, there are tropes in there that, of course, they didn't love. But for me, the main character is enjoyable, and in my opinion, not a bland main character, which we often get in rom-coms. And he was the chorus for, I think, how we often feel going into rom-coms. And his reflection on that was done very, very well. And we can get more into it in the spoiler territory, but I took a look real quick at the source material against the anime, and I'm honestly very impressed. I'm also very impressed by the voice acting, both in the sub and the dub. I watched both. The actors and actresses really put their heart and soul into dedicating to the lines, dedicating to the bits, and I really love it. I'd highly recommend it to anyone who is looking for a rom-com. I might even recommend it to those who are normally in the shonen realm. I thought this was done really well.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the voice acting. I mean, I only watched in sub, but there were some really good scenes where I'm like, oh, they had to dig deep for that one. And something that I don't think we really talked about much either is the music. I thought was very, very pleasant.
The original soundtrack it just felt like a little joyride for me. Just the instrumentals were awesome.
Yeah, is there anything else you guys want to discuss before we head into spoilers?
No, I think
No?
let's dive in.
Spoilers
Okay.
are coming. Oh my god!
So I think what really hooked me in like the first part of the show was, obviously the back and forth between Yanami and Nukumizu. Yeah, I thought they had some really good chemistry. Like the lunch debt bit, I thought was really fun and like just a good way to get these two to interact. And I guess Nukumizu is kind of just like the the trash pile that that Yanami keeps on piling into with all of her drama. And she's also not the typical, perfect girl, best, she's a best girl, but she is definitely flawed, and they're not really showing her as a, perfect girl. She is certainly a complainer and a little annoying, but in a good way.
Yeah, their dynamic from the start. Their dynamic was, I thought, incredibly strong. I really appreciated that. To me, Nukumizu is just a good dude, and he's a little socially awkward, so he gets pulled in to all these things that he has no intention of being a part of. But I love the way that he responds to each one of the girls individually, and he's just a nice, like, he reluctantly helps every single time, but then I think it really helps build him up as a person, and it almost felt like he just he loves the light novels and everything like that, and he references, he's like, I've seen this in a light novel before, and I've seen this in a light novel before, and he's kind of getting to see those things played out in front of his eyes. But no, you've noticed, like, he talks to a bunch of the different side male characters, and they're like, man, you're really good with girls, you give really good advice, and he's like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what I'm doing. And that kind of stays firm through the whole show. And I thought that Yanami's voice actress she was the star of the show for me. Just the way that she talks to Nukumizu, the way they interact, that voice actress hit a home run for me. She's a 10 out of 10 in this show
Yeah.
on the Japanese side.
So Nukumizu, I thought I really enjoyed. I felt a little targeted by him, being a guy who's really invested in water quality, reading books. Hit a little too close to home. But as Otaku
Did you measure your fountains during the day?
You know
for
it.
Chlorine and temperature and...
But a lot of the comedy was in the subversion of the, this girlfriend got dumped. She needs someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. She's asking me. She's going to come ask me to be her boyfriend. Here comes the big moment where she asked me to be her boyfriend. And she asked him, hey, can you get one of your friends that are really cool to be my boy? And like, that's a great moment. Now, of course, that's subverted again when the girl goes falling down the stairs. And he's like, oh, she's going to land on me and get my boobs in my face. And then it does happen. And you're like, well, that didn't work the same way. But still, I liked him. And I definitely agree that Anna has definitely not just a great voice actress, but the animators put the most time into her. Out of all the scenes, she is always stealing it with her vibrancy, with the faces she makes. Like, the animators put that little extra something sauce into her scenes. And even when she's not the main character, she's always doing something in the background that's amusing, cute, clever, funny, whatever. It brings a life to the show when she's on screen, and that's definitely something that's very hard to do for an entire season.
The anime put more work into Yanami's hair than they put into the entirety of Blue Lock season 2.
Yes.
Like, there's, and I'm like looking at this girl, I'm like, yeah, like, and she is a real joy to watch. Not just like so bouncy, like, well, her hair is bouncy, but like her entire personality is like bubbly, like, very, it just draws the attention, and not to the point where it's distracting either, because Lemon is also a very entertaining character to watch.
They're both very anime, but they're not so anime breaking where you can't see a real person behind these characters. And that's definitely a strong point of the show. And obviously, as good as we're saying, oh, Anna looks amazing, Anna like has this great Sakuga with it. Like, the show, despite looking very typical in the A1 character designs, really did have a ton of highlights throughout, even that weren't Anna. Like, there's in episode 3, Nukumizu is like running through the sand with like Lemon like pulling his hand, and you can see like him stumble and like his sandal falls off, and like that scene and the tons of other, like, it really capture so much grounded realism that makes you feel like you're in the world and these are all real people, and that's something we don't always get out of anime. And I think that is definitely one of the biggest strengths of the show, is that it felt grounded.
Yeah, and here's what took me out whenever it felt grounded. is that it will subvert those tropes, as you said, with the, oh, here's the moment she's gonna profess her love, and it turns out like, no, she barely sees him as a friend. And all those moments are great, but they still do the tropey fan service stuff. And that doesn't seem like it's supposed to be in there. Like, there's Lemon tripping over Nukumizu in the sports equipment closet, and she is for some reason completely undressing, and she's just so hot. She's so hot that she's going crazy. She's ripping off her clothes. She doesn't know where she is, and it's like, it just doesn't feel like it's supposed to be in this show. This show feels like it's supposed to be subverting. That was playing into. And that's just one of several fan service moments that just, came out of nowhere and just felt uncomfortable.
It doesn't help that every single lady in the show are always thinking about romance. No female character is ever not considering who she's dating, who she's not dating, or having sex. And it seems like it kind of undercuts these, like this. The show is a group of these self-aware goobers, and they're all capable of providing comedy or a serious moment or an emotional moment. But when so many of them are always focusing on these relationships, it feels not fully fleshed out in a lot of ways. And I don't know. I agree with you, Caroline. Is you get these serious moments, but they're not delivered in a way that I found emotionally impactful. They felt kind of shoehorned.
You're looking for, it sounds like, more agency from these girls, like something that they were interested in, which I feel like you did get out of the literary club arc.
Which I thought was the weakest arc by a country mile.
Oh,
you'd have all these great characters in Lemon and Anna, and not to say, oh, Kamari is not as exciting, so she's not interesting, but we get this whole, she's got to be president, so the whole club has to band together and everyone has to set up tables for, like, that was so impossibly lame. And this whole arc of,
you didn't want the power of friendship.
The
power of friendship.
Because where was the comedy? Where was the exchange? It became a sappy thing that was not really earned. And then we have this whole arc of Komari has to talk. She has to give a presidential speech saying who she is and what their club report is. And she can't do it. She's so nervous. She's so petrified that she's unable to do this. And so Nukumizu's like, hey, maybe I should do it. Maybe I'm capable. I can do it for you this time while you build up your strength. And she's like, well, you're not much of a man anyway. What? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Like, they just started undercutting, and the moral is, no, she's not capable, so step in. And
right.
Like, I was very conflicted by what the message I thought would be. And I get that it's
totally
support
agree.
them, but it just felt weird. And then the last episode is, let's all go on a fake date. And like the chemistry was back. They were slinging jokes and it was a bunch of fun. I'm like, that was the show I wanted. I don't know.
I don't know. I felt like with Kumari that it was her journey for growth was asking for help when you need it, because yes, she could not in the end give the speech and she was really torn up by it. But that whole arc, which I get it, it's probably the weakest because you are missing a lot of comedic bits in there. But she never asked for help until the very end when she started to get sick, and that led to her asking and receiving help from a ton of random people. Well, not random, but a ton of various people to help her.
Ask for help. She was told, sit down, we're going to do the setup, and then later she has to give the presentation, and she still doesn't ask for help. She had to sit, she had to get shot down by the president of the school, and Nukumizu, who was like told off by her multiple times, had to rush in and be a man and talk for her, and like then she would be like, I'm the president now? Like, is that the messaging? Like, it felt...
Yeah, I feel like she should have been made the president, because that seemed to be what her character was supposed to be. Like, they told her, like, this is, it feel like she was being built up to be this person that, it's a challenge for her. And she doesn't have to completely meet this challenge immediately. She can be the president, maybe just barely get her introduction out, have that happen, and Nukumizu can support her with the report. And then maybe eventually, over the course of, the next season, which I presume will eventually come out, I don't know. She can build herself up where she could do it on her own. I feel like that's a more natural, and also like it doesn't completely. I feel like there's a message there that wasn't present at the end of this season. Like it definitely didn't seem like the message was, oh, she asked for help when she needed it, because she never really did.
Right, she passed out, and they were like, "Well, guess we got to pick up the slack now."
Komari, you can't do it. Yes, I can. No, you can't. Okay, she doesn't. Like, I don't know. I
could see how that element would frustrate people that enjoy that character, and I guess for me, it just didn't do enough to outshine some of the other dynamics, especially with Lemon and with Anna. Like, this show had me hook, line, and sinker when they went on the fake date earlier in the season, and Anna's upset because she's like, "I'm so mad. Look at me. I look so good, and we're going underground."
Yeah,
I'm like,
that was awesome.
That is something my wife would say.
And then she
Like,
ends up
it just-
enjoying the whole museum just as much as anyone else. Like,
Right.
that was fantastic. That was awesome. That's personality. That's banter. That's, she knows herself, but she doesn't. And the whole, Lemon arc I thought was pretty strong overall. And I definitely agree with Otaku's earlier point is it's set up like a harem. Nukumizu is surrounded by these girls who are not in a relationship, who are kind of looking for love, but it never feels dirty or grimy. They feel like they're just living as friends, as conflicted people who might like each other, and I like the chemistry, and I like the non-harem of it. There's a who's the best girl? How's it gonna work out? But it doesn't feel like he can just snap his fingers, make a decision, and be like, "Yo, girl, you're gonna be mine." Like, no, it doesn't have that kind of cringy dynamic that you see in a lot of shows. It feels good in so many ways. It just, I don't know. I feel like it lost. I didn't know where it was going to go. I needed something to happen, and I get it can't just be zany hijinks the whole time. You need to have a serious arc, like the Komari one. I just didn't think it was executed well. Maybe because Anna was missing for like 90% of it. Who knows? But the characters were just frustrating. So many of them. We have the stalker girlfriend who's like in a relationship, but not really. Like, her arc was fine. Like, I don't know.
Okay, so are you talking about Asagumo?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
she's my best girl. I thought
Ms.
she
GPS?
was great. Yes. Okay, so yeah, it's a little creepy, but honestly, she was so funny to me. The whole like forehead thing is
Yeah.
so like literally shining a point that gives her away because her forehead is so freaking bright and shiny.
And I think at her heart, like, she represents the kind of person who is in the relationship but is self-conscious about it or has her doubts, or, like it says at the very beginning, high school romances are not permanent things. Like, they're kind of destined to crumble with time, with as maturity, all this stuff. So she is, she's in her relationship, but it's like, is it really true? Like, he might love someone else. She has her doubts and is kind of self-conscious about it. And they do that, I think, well, in a very silly, over the top, oh, I'm spying on my boyfriend, but it's just kind of for my own, like, I thought she was good. And the scenes with her and Lemon kind of being nice to each other with, like, we both kind of like the same person, but who does he really like? I get that. And I thought she was, of all the crazy, wacky, zany side characters that kind of took me out of the grounded realism show that I enjoyed so much, she was one of the better ones.
Okay, so I guess she wasn't like a home run with everybody. I will agree that stalking is creepy, but
that was the message, and she gives up on it.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson she learned and the message the show was trying to communicate was, communicate, trust, that kind of things, was better than the Komari arc of give up, you're a failure, go die. Like,
I also thought Kaju was a little weird. Like, just she's the sister of Nukumizu, and she's just It was it didn't get there, but it was approaching siscon or brocon stuff.
She's basically Yuki from Aaliyah, but without all the
Yeah.
creepy etchy.
Yeah, she had her moments where she's like interviewing Anna with like a list of questions and like this and that.
That was hilarious.
That
She
was
broke out
funny.
a voice recorder and a notepad.
She was a flip of the coin every scene she was in, between clever, funny, snappy little kawaii little sister type or the creepy Oni-san little sister type, and she was tough to pin down.
You were about to say something, Otaku. Do you remember what that was? I'm sorry. I
Oh,
cut
just
you off.
just that she reminds me of the Yuki character from Aaliyah, hides her feelings in Russian, but without the etchy part of it. And I think she added to it too because of how much she enjoyed the fact that, she recognized her brother was a loner and she was always worried about him having friends. Now he has all these friends and she wants to watch him enjoy it. I think this show walked that line of creepy, etchy rom-com in parts. Like, I know that, the outfits and the teachers and things like that. And I think they did it mostly because they thought it was funny. And I think the overarching thing for me that I really bought into for the show was it's just everybody's just trying to figure their shit out. And some people handle it better than others. But, stuff seldom goes the way we think it's going to go. Stuff seldom works out the way we want it to. And how you respond to it is how you grow as a person. And I thought the show captured that very well because I thought Lemon grew leaps and bounds from the girl with the crush to acceptance and moving forward with herself. Same with Anna and Sosuke. I thought it did it very well that things don't always work out. It's what you do next that defines how you're going to progress going forward.
I would agree with that, and I think the show does that message well. I just think a lot of the dialogue surrounding that message was a bit sloppy in the second half with like Anna shares like a treat with Nukumizu at the very end when they're like sitting on the tatami mats after like setting up after the fair, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, you're sharing food with me." And I get that it's a joke because she's always eating and the fact that she's sharing food, but let's not forget the very first half of the show was her giving him food to make up for a debt, so it's not that uncommon. Or Kaju just like magically cooking all the food for this display because we need some reason for this. Like, it just felt forced in a way that I think didn't need to be that way. And that's why I feel like the show wasn't like, it was so close to being something that I really enjoyed, but little things along the way, little throwaway lines of dialogue that just didn't fit in a way that kind of irked me. So I agree. I think the show is good, just not the show we got. I don't know. It's frustrating. Can we talk about how good the endings were, though? The EDs?
Yes.
They were
so good.
So good, from the different art styles to being different for each character, with sometimes using like real world footage to like high definition sprites. They were always a joy when they popped up at the end. They were so good.
And the voice actors did the covers of the songs.
Right.
So you actually got the voice actors for each of these characters that was being showcased. And that meant something because I went and just quickly did a Google Translate of each song to make sure it was a love song. And it sort of fit under each character's arc that they were going through. I think my favorite is Lemon's, though. I think Lemon was my favorite of the EDs.
But not your favorite of the girls.
Not my favorite of the girls.
No, that's fair. That's fair. No, I thought all the EDs were really solid. I wasn't huge on the OP. It was a little too back and forth, zany. Haha, you lost, you're a loser. And I get it, but also I love the visuals of it, just not the song. Overall, though, impeccable production across the board, from the voice acting to the music to stuff on the show. Easily one of the strongest highlights. Way better than a rom-com needed to be.
Yeah. My only critique of the animation, and it is in the manga as well, the bows. I did not like the bows
I was
at
just
all.
about to say, we need to talk about the bows. Why?
I'm glad we got at least one throwaway line. The one girl at the end who's like,
why do we have so many bows.
Why do you? Why do you? I
Please
would
answer.
hate to like. I can't imagine putting on your school uniform and you would have to adjust every single bow, and they're different colors for the different years.
No, they're not. They all wear different colored bows.
That's
There's
what I mean.
not.
Like,
They change
isn't it
them.
by isn't it by year or is it by
It is
season?
not.
That's what I
It's
thought, but
random.
no. So I just assumed it'd be a set, like a set of 4 that were like fused together, and you just put the one on. Right? There's no way they're 4 individual bows.
But also, they're not typical bows that you like tie around anything because they're like pinned. Almost.
Exactly. Like you tie the top one, and then the 3 just kind of dangle below. It's a choice. I mean, out of all the things that take me out of this is a realistic show with realistic characters, honestly, the characters distracted me more than the bows. Like, the bows are at least recognizable. Like, if someone shows me a picture of that, I'll know exactly where they came from. So I guess I get where that design comes from. It's just not very practical. But it wasn't so ludicrous where it took me out more than the zombie girl with her boobs hanging out.
But it was one of the first weird things you noticed when watching the show.
Sure.
Like, in terms of like, we didn't really get too many of the weird characters until a little further in. But episode 1, I clocked the bows. I was like, what's with that?
I don't know why. It just made me so irritated. But I think part of it is just the idea that they have to put on that, and just me putting myself in that uniform and being like, oh my God, I would just hate all of those. And talking about fan service, what do you think the bows are emphasizing? It's clear what they're emphasizing. It doesn't make sense for a school uniform, and I just need to get over the bows.
I think what bothered me the most outside of the number of the bows was the color scheme. Because the colors were just really out there. It wasn't matchy. It wasn't like complementary to the already established colors. And then you add on, like, was their winter uniform like a white jacket on top of that, right?
I think
was-
so.
I think so.
Yeah, I did not like that either. Like, it was the white on white with
Fashion
the bows.
crimes.
Honestly, Emery, I think we need to do a tier list of school uniforms or something.
Yeah, this is going to make the top. Well, is it tiering the best school uniforms or the worst? Because
No,
this is going to be.
it's a show of the worst uniforms in rom-coms. You call it Crimes of Fashion, and it's a long-running podcast.
Perfect. Yep, that's it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
I
But
know. Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. No, I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to, whatever.
I was going to say, any other thoughts? I know we kind of quickly jumped into the deep end of characters, what irked us, what we liked about them. But any other thoughts we want to touch on?
I do want to touch on the fact that, and again, I'm trying to get better at my pronunciation for names, but Takebi Amori, this was their debut series, and they're inspired by Darling in the Franxx. So I love the idea that, and I didn't even catch this, but like, Anna is Ichigo from that series. And
Yeah,
this
same
was just
blue
sort of
hair.
the girl that beats her out in the end is pink, like long pink hair. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, I thought that was so, like, such a clever idea for coming up with a rom-com. And my only other thought was, I gotta, like, just say it again. I do love this main character. I love that it's that Nikumizu is sort of the Greek chorus for us, for those who have read Greek tragedies, or in this case, like a Greek comedy. Oftentimes the chorus is the audience who has all of the insider baseball information and is making comments. And I thought that was so well done for this character, where he had humor in it, but he knew where a lot of these tropes were going. And that is what made the comedic bits, whether it subverted the expectation or did exactly just that, so much better for me.
I think we're
All
ready
right,
to
I think
score
we're ready to
this.
score.
Yeah, I think so. I've said everything I need to say about it. You all know I'm a fan of it.
Should I go first, following in order?
Yeah,
Sure.
I guess so. I honestly
Okay.
have no idea when I'm going to score this thing.
Yeah, me neither.
I've
I'm
just
gonna
been
talk
such
through
a
this.
flux of like, oh, this was good and this wasn't good, but I really like this, but I really didn't. But so lead the way.
Okay. Um, Overall, it was a good show, but the last part of it really brought it down for me. I probably would have given this like a 3.5 if it just stayed with what they had going on in the first several episodes. Um, the characters were decent. All the production stuff across the board was great. Um, but the side characters and the dragged on storylines towards the end and things like that, the weird fan service out of nowhere. I feel like it had such great potential, so it's kind of a shame that I did not end up liking it that much by the end. But I would still give this show oh 2.5 too many bows out of 5. I was going between 2.5 and a 3, but I think it's 2.5.
I'm going through all the reviews of 2024 that I gave, comparing it to the shows I gave a 2.5 to and the shows I gave a 2 to see where it stacks up. But I think I will once again just echo everything that Caroline has said today and also give it a 2.5 out of 5. I thought half the show was good and the other half more irritating than not. And there's a lot to like in here. There's a lot of strong points. It's just a shame that it was not quite my cup of tea. And I think just for a show full of girls getting dumped, just missing that juicy emotional bait that I think was ripe for the taking, that it never really pounced on. So I'll give it 2.5. Nothing original to say here. Too many losing heroines out of 5.
Hey,
Otaku.
yeah.
All right. So I think that the things that took away from maybe scoring it even higher, I don't think they are bad enough to drown out the quality of the plethora of characters in the show. I think that it is a fresh take on the rom-com genre to a point. I do like the fact that it was harem-esque without being a harem. It fell into some tropes while not others, but this is the realest that characters have felt for me in a long time inside of an anime. Just how they talked, how they responded, the things they did and said. So for me, I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't recommend it enough. So I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it 4 ode meals to Nukumizu out of 5.
Ooh,
Nice.
ooh, I was expecting
Wow,
I was expecting something like a 4.5 or something. So I like it.
Oh,
I like it.
really?
Yeah, I was expecting big things from Otaku. He's a positive dude. He's here to
He's not jaded yet. He has not been around here too long.
he's here to balance the
Listen,
seesaw.
you
of
all
my
know what I do
negativity.
for a job every day. I this is the fun part for me.
Yeah. All right, Emery.
All right. I cannot sing the praises enough. I think the criticisms are valid. I think there was obviously some pacing issues, especially around the literary club arc, but that was not enough to dissuade me to now and finish it. If season 2 got announced tomorrow, I'd be all over it. I really, really loved this. So I'm going to give this 4.5 yaoi tokens out of 5.
By the way, did you guys hear the vocal track on the Boy Love thing they were listening to in episode 10?
Oh,
Oh
I'm
my
size
God,
14. It's not gonna fit.
Oh my god. That was weird, but it was like funny weird.
Yeah.
Well, that averages out to a
Like, yeah.
3.5 out of 5 for Makeine. I'm sticking with that pronunciation. Too many losing heroines, which I think pretty good score. Pretty good score for a rom-com. For as much as we were bothered by it, it really did bring a lot to the table, and definitely worth a shot if you like those kind of shows. So check it out if you haven't, as well as Yatagarasu, as well as Look Back, as well as what else did Otaku recommend? The Hidden Gem. I forgot. Oh, Yakuza Fiance, if you like the trash. So there you go. That was it for our episode. Thank you so much for listening, putting up with us. It was a bit of a weird one, but I hope you had a good time. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, most importantly, Discord for all the juicy info, content, links, everything is at our website, AAAPodcast.com. Sign up for our bonus content if you want. Kick a few bucks our way. Leave a review. Tell a friend. Next episode, we will be reviewing The Elusive Samurai. So, Shonen's back on the menu, boys. I'm excited for it. And that will do it. Emery, Caroline, Otaku, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts for the good people?
We'll see you next year.
Oh, crazy
That's right.
how nature do that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much again. We will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.